Aloha, beloved family. Welcome to the New Earth Podcast. This is Richard Melchizedek from StarseedChangingTheWorld.com and the Starseed Changing the World YouTube channel. This is the first episode of the Awakened New Earth Podcast, and I'm so honored to have a beloved friend, soul family, colleague, and fellow ascension guide. Acurda Melchizedek is a specialist in working with the multidimensional aspects of DNA. She teaches people to access these codes in their holographic blueprints and recode them in order to live their highest potential. It is her passion to teach people to heal their DNA and show them how to clear destructive DNA patterns from their ancestral lineage, trauma, and disease, and recode them for activation and alignment with their wholeness and soul light mission and purpose. She works with the holographic body, sacred geometry, akashic records, the crystalline grid system, and other multidimensional realms. Acurda is leading programs on transformation of the 144 stranded DNA for the evolution of humanity and leaving a new genetic lineage. I want you to get comfortable and prepare for a higher conscious conversation with the Acurda Melchizedek. I'm excited to introduce Acurda Melchizedek, who's a good friend of mine and colleague and visionary, who is on our first episode of the Awaken New Earth podcast. Welcome, and I'm so honored to share this space with you today and to have some higher conscious conversation together.
Thank you, Brother Melchizedek. It's such a pleasure to be here. It's such a pleasure to have these formats to share ourselves freely, to connect with other people, other souls that are feeling like us, who see these things that we see. And it's such a true joy and a gift to be here with you and connect with those people who have come forward.
I couldn't think of a more beautiful or better soul to kind of open this podcast with as well. So, truly, truly honored and privileged. And, you have so many important messages and so much big work that you are doing right now within this higher dimensional kind of ascension that we're going through. And I know your main focus is on working with multidimensional DNA. And it's, what do you feel is the potential for human potential through this DNA?
Well, when we talk about the human potential through DNA, that is one of those things that it's like we get to decide what that is. And it's infinite. And it's whatever we want it to be. And we have the power to create that. And, I think that all of the things that are happening right now at this time are fabrics and timelines that we can now see very clearly so that we can make different choices. And there's a wide gamut of stuff that's coming forward, and we'll get into that. But it's like every moment is a moment to moment alignment of what we're saying yes and no to, what we're consenting to, and where we choose to put our energy and where we choose to take our energy and put it elsewhere. And that's infinite potential. And I see a humanity from, if we get into like the layers of, or the levels of ascension, it's like we have our human ascension, we have our personality ascension, we have our soul ascension. And in the human ascension right now, I see that we are liberating ourselves into freedom and sovereignty to govern ourselves so that we can then move into dismantling the personality matrix, right? Which is all of these cultural stories, all of these gender stories, all of these other stories through a millennia that we've told, false histories, education, blah, 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 so that we can then step into our soul ascension story and be in the sovereignty and the freedom and have our energy to move in freedom to create our ascension path, whatever we choose. So I know that was kind of a big.
So, in this point right now that we're in, I think with the coronavirus, all having this moment for like a global kind of reset to really go within, where does this kind of take your work moving forward with DNA coming out of this? Has it shifted your focus, your vision, in terms of what to do next?
Well, so many things have come forward in the last, we'll say, year. I've been doing this, really diving deeply into DNA for about 4 years now, and every year it seems like there's something new that really presents itself. And last year it was really our galactic family hybrid genetics, the stories of going back to healing the human stories, all the wars and the strife and all these programs that we've had from the human level. Then we went into this galactic level, right? And the galactic level was all of these Orion wars, galactic wars, Tiamat, all, people started having tremendous amounts of an upsurge of memory of these as we started to clear this out, the genetics of war through these higher dimensional strands of DNA and our hybrid genetics. And some of the new technologies and the new gifts that started coming online from these clearings, right? Because they were kind of blocking certain frequencies because we had advanced, I don't want to say that we had advanced technologies because they are us. We've had advanced technologies that we blocked because we use them not in accordance with universal law, right?
Yeah.
And that sets the cosmic universal law. So that sets the karmic motion, right? So a lot of people who came here on Earth also came because, in another dimensional level, we chose to pick up arms, right? And so that needed to be cleared. And so we came into the human form to kind of do that clearing as well. So that was kind of like the last year's thing that presented itself. And this year seems to be an expanded part of that, but more into the what is AI kind of doing to our genetics, as we interface all the time, as you and I are interfacing right now. I can feel your energy, you can feel my energy, but there is still a layer of technology, right, of distortion that our energies are moving through. And so what has really come forward is how these technologies and these interfaces, our phones, our computers, other bigger parts of the picture, military, these we'll say oversoul web of AI with satellites and all of these things, how these are actually damaging and really corrupting our DNA and our cellular system. And so this has been kind of what the story is starting to come forward now, is taking our genetics back from these artificial frequencies. And so that's kind of where my field of study is right now.
That's a very, very big mission in terms of what you're kind of taking on to do for all of our family and everyone here. So I just think it's so amazing, like this level of dedication and work that you have with working with the DNA, and how you always seem to kind of be able to dive in on such a deeper level and continue to evolve within your visionary and missionary kind of work with it, where you've really seemed to be unlocking things to a whole new level. Um, so how exactly did this like kind of all start for you getting into working with DNA? Because you said this started roughly 4 years ago.
About 4 years ago. So I've um, studied a lot of healing modalities most of my life. You know, I was a star seed. I came here, and you know, I was traumatized by what I saw, but what was happening as a person who was speaking light language as a child, and you know, seeing energy and watching people um, speak things, but their heart and their mind were not in alignment to what they were speaking. I stopped talking for a really long time and just started watching energy.
Mm.
And, you know, my family got freaked out and, you know, all of that stuff. But that was just like the start of the trauma that I was experiencing. And like most experiencers, right? Most open, you know, star seeds and people who are aware, you know, it's traumatic not to be able to share those stories. And you know, that's another part of my mission right now, is to offer spaces for people to share this and to be fully supported, you know. And so I really dove deep into the shadow part of me, because I just, for me, I felt like there was always something wrong. There was always something wrong. I don't belong here. This isn't right. Feeling trapped inside my body, feeling kind of on the outside of society, you know, all of that stuff that we tend to go through at that old paradigm stage. Now it's a whole new story. There's so many of us, right? And so I dove really deep into all different types of medicine, you know, energetic medicine, frequency, all of it, all over the world. And you know, there was this moment, um, and I call that earth medicine, right? It was like this energetic earth medicine, because a lot of it came from indigenous from all over the world. There was this moment where I started to see that all these cultures that I deeply studied with, that they were all saying the same thing. They were just saying them in different ways. And that's when something unlocked inside of me, right? And it was this total other level. And I think from that unlocking, there is something in the universe that felt that and
Yeah.
came. And then, you know, the Galactic Council, the Federation of Light, actually came and took me outside of inner time, inner space time, to outer space time, and rewrote my DNA and showed me all these complexities of DNA, with light, with geometry, with consciousness, with intention, on a multitude of levels.
Mm.
And so when I came back, I chose, you know, they had asked me, which was already encoded. It was just a representation, right?
Yeah.
It was just the visual representation that I gave myself to know that this was there, right? Um, when I accepted to bring DNA work here to the planet as part of the mission for liberation, that's when they gave me the name Acurda, which is a three, which is a catalyst.
Mm.
Um, and then, you know, then it became, how do I take that experience and reverse engineer it for people, right? Because that's what my courses are all about, is that experience, reverse engineering it so that people can have that same experience. So I, you know, have broken down the 12 strands of DNA, um, you know, how to access 64 programs, you know, how to completely clear and recode your DNA with spectrums of light and geometries. Because I truly believe, after what I have witnessed, my journey I have been on, my whole soul, my whole being, that we are the children of light.
Yeah.
And that comes through our genetics. It is our master ancestor of everything that has ever happened and everything that ever will be. That infinite potential that I was talking about
Mhm.
is in our genetics, and our consciousness in every moment is taking all of the chemicals, all of the proteins, the RNA, the DNA, all of it, and morphing it every moment for our infinite potential and possibility of our consciousness. And our being is a direct reflection of that. And now that we've been working on clearing some of these, we'll say, dark nets on the planet, like the corruptible grids and all of that, that have been literally focused in on frequencies that directly coordinate to different frequencies of the 12 strands of DNA, and corrupting so that we cannot access that, are starting to be dismantled. Our full genetics is about to come online with the 12 strands of DNA. It's already happening. We're already clearing it. The people that I'm working with are already doing it. And then when we move in to the harmonics of the 12 strands of DNA in their entirety, when it's like 12 notes, right? 12 frequencies. But when they play together, they actually create a 13th harmonic, which unlocks another set of 12 stranded DNA at a higher quantum level. So this is the next set of 24 stranded DNA that, we're starting to work with.
Just kind of tells you like the power of sound and the power of light, and how much can be really like encoded within or has been hidden within some of these frequencies for us to kind of like find, to unlock our potential that we've just really been disconnected from for so long. So one thing I wanted to ask you, you were speaking of lineages and genetics. Would there be a difference between looking into like the human, like kind of like genetics of DNA and the galactic uh, genetics of DNA, or is that just all kind of correlation and then just works as going up the chain as we unlock?
So there is a difference. And when people come in to my programs, is what I do is I give a basis of the 12 stranded DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I allow people to experiment with their own frequencies and their own programs and their own findings inside DNA. And what I've noticed, and this is why I don't publish any specific strands and what they look like, because we're always morphing, is that these genetics look different. And if I tell people this is what our genetics look like, then that is a template that they're following. But when you're locked into templates like that, then you don't experience what's outside of those templates. And there are hybrid genetics, and they are encoded with different, and they do look different. And, we've done a lot of merging of human and hybrid genetics so that people could start channeling that information, because it's a part of their soul mission to bring that here for humanity, right? It's a frequency and a soul mission to bring that information through, or that technology through, whatever that looks like. So here's one of the stories that just recently happened. Is, so I was working with this person, and we're in a higher strand of DNA, and I can't remember if it was like the 16th, the 13th, or the 16th strand. So we're dealing with something that's outside of physical embodiment, right? That has a more dimensional, we'll say, plasmic kind of structure to it. Okay. So this type of identity, a genetic identity.
Are you able to kind of just explain maybe plasma a little bit for our viewers?
Yeah. So, and this is going to be one of the great things that start coming
Mm-hmm.
down in the next few years, I feel, because, a lot of us have, I'll say a lot of people have talked about, the light body and the plasma body, but haven't really given the specifics of what that means. And so this is my understanding from the way that it's been shown to me, or where I'm reading from, we'll say, is that in order for us to move into the plasma body, there is an evolution of the physical into being more light. And the light actually creates heat, which then takes the water that's in our body and like it's almost like turns it into like more of a gaseous, a lighter state, right? And then that turns into plasma. And plasma, because it's still water, we still have the opportunity to be able to use it as a creation template, right? We
Okay.
know that water is one of the most programmable structures, in the world, in the universe. So this is at a higher quantum, more light perspective, is what plasma is. And we are outside of this physical template, right? We are outside of the physical earth grid. We are more in a dimensional grid, we'll say. So that's kind of my energetic take on plasma. So we're talking more of like a dimensional, plasmic being, who this person had a previous life as one of these beings, and in this type of being created technology from a completely, we'll say, like mental, uh, conscious, brainwave of like creation, right? Instead of from a heart place of creation, it was completely more of like the statistical side, the formula side of a creation. And so, he really came back here to learn the frequency of the heart, so that he could take these different type of, and his specific skill set was designing spaceships. So he then is now going to take what the frequency, the heart, the love, compassion, and redesign this in that timeline, all of their technology with love and compassion.
Wow.
So we started merging that so they could connect, and that was a clear channel to a timeline. So this is just one.
That's incredible. So you're predominantly kind of your base work in your teachings is working with the 12 strands of DNA when you start off in one of your programs or courses. So are you able to give a little information on the courses that you offer?
Yeah. Well, I have a few retreats, which is more about claiming the genetic lineage of light. But my larger course is called the Holographic Human from Cell to Soul, where we go through understanding our unique soul sound vibration, right? We have a unique signature vibration that is how we create in the universe. Okay, it is specific to us. We are part of a fabric that upholds the fabric of the universe, the multiverse. We are unique and special in that way. And when you start to come into resonance with that, there's a clarity that starts to happen in the body. Then we move into holographic sight. I teach holographic sight. And I believe that holographic sight is part of our birthright and part of our gifts that we have been disconnected from. And the reason that we move into holographic sight is because when you start to experience this, whether you see it or feel it, right, it is an energy that you are connecting with. You can then understand your own blueprints, see or feel your own blueprints. You can understand your blueprints of your DNA. And then you can also start to understand grid systems. And like I was talking about, these we'll say false AI nets that is happening right now. And when you can fully clearly see them, you can start to create out of them, right? Or you can change them. And then we go into the 12 strands of DNA. And each strand does something specific. So for me, like the first strand is really about our genetics, is about just coming in to pulling in everything that it takes to create life. The second strand is about ancestral stories. So the epigenetics part of how we come into creation. Our third strand is really about past lives. Our fourth strand is present life, right? Because we're moving into 4D. It's the personality matrix. The fifth strand is unity consciousness, right? Working outside of separation codes. And then the sixth and seventh strands have a lot to do with archetypal structures. These are, before we come in as a soul, we pick these archetypal structures to basically start forming our blueprint, right? But here's the thing, it's kind of like an overcloud soul thing of a collective, and that we are going to start moving out of that. And so we can pick structures that are not of the original archetypal structures now, and that we are starting to design that. It's another part of our infinite potential and possibility. We no longer have to come to earth through these particular blueprints. And then we get into, 8, 9, 10, and 11. 8 and 9 tend to be more of our galactic stories, right? Our galactic imprints. And then 10, they also have a lot to do with our soul mission gifts, right? They're at these higher quantum frequencies, soul mission, light technologies. We're starting to recognize our own power to wield energy, geometries, consciousness through the fabric of universal laws, or with the fabric of universal laws. And then 11 or 12 are really that higher soul story, right? 11 is like that soul story as we're going through the ascension plan, the soul story. And then 12, it represents that the purity of our divine light with no story. It is like that uncorruptible light blueprint that even starts us on the ascension path, that we know that's there. Somehow we know that this uncorruptible, God strand of DNA, God particle, source light, whatever we want to call it, 0 point, whatever we want to call it, is that's that thing that no matter what is happening, we feel it and we're always moving towards it. And all these other layers of stories are just stories. But at this level, we are in divine purity and source. And when we start to see that and feel that, we know that all the other things are not true.
That is incredible.
So
Just the way you're able to kind of bridge these aspects and explain them to everyone listening to this right now, is you're talking about so much more than DNA. You're really talking about like freedom, right? Freedom for all, and reclaiming our sovereignty, and fully stepping forward into uncharted territory that we just haven't been in millennia here. So that is incredible, and highly just really honor you and all the work that you're doing, and it is needed now more than ever. So it's truly, truly incredible. And I think that's just the way you're able to kind of break down the different aspects of the details will bring a lot of clarity for people who are looking into their journeys and their past and their awakening, because there's a lot of information out there. And this is good information for people to understand. Like, if you want to really start to be 100% accountable for your life, for your energy, and take that level of that journey back into eternal love, it's to do it through your DNA, right?
Yeah, thank you. I love that. And I also want to say that, I know, I have many years of this work behind me, and I've worked with, 1,000 people. And I know that I sound sure of what I'm talking about, but I also want to leave it open to other people that this is just an experience that I'm providing so that people can experience their truth. And what I have said is true, but it's not true. And that every single person gets to design their own ascension path. And that is complete freedom and liberation as a creator, in the standing in the truth of who you are as a creator from that divine place, and whatever that is. So I just always like to leave that open, because it's not what my experience. It's about helping people have their experience with it.
Mhm. And for them to come back into a place of that realization that, we're all like a divine child, we're all a powerful divine creator. And the biggest awakening kind of exists when we fully are able to sit in that like moment within and recognize that on a soul level, and honor our soul, and then my soul can honor your soul, and we can have these beautiful conversations together, right? So in terms of where do you see this going? I know you've mentioned you do put together some retreats for this year, and I know you just are coming to a conclusion of the summit that you were working on. Do you want to explain a little bit of what's coming up for you?
Yeah. Wow, we have so much going on. Sitting and listening to what has been transpiring over the last few months, we uh, some of the people who have taken my courses, we moved into creating another community called Temple of the Heart. So I have the DNA code community. We moved into another community called Temple of the Heart. And this was really us being in the moment, listening to spirit of what comes next. So every Friday we've been doing, kind of like activations, new timeline, creating the new brain, new genetics. But for the most part, it is all the new stories of the new human and the new earth, and allowing us to be as a community creating that together. Um, and we very much through the last 8 weeks have noticed that we have a lot of people waking up who need support, and need support because of all kinds of reasons. And a big portion of it is that they don't have tools. They're waking up. We're in this pandemic right now, and they don't have tools because this hasn't been their path until now. And so we started doing free support groups for people who are waking up. And then it through this few weeks of doing these support groups, it became very clear that we got to do a one-day retreat, just helping people have the tools to be able to be okay inside themselves through this transition, and to be able to move them into a opportunity to witness themselves, in their own knowing, in their own truth, because there's a lot of information out there right now,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what's going on here.
Hmm.
and and um, to help people feel supported to create what's here. So we have a one-day retreat coming up where we're going to go through the different uh, kind of communication setting with your guides, angels, animals, Gaia, as kind of like that part of getting to know a bigger team for yourself, right? That part of to know um, that we are supported on a grand master scale of support. Then we're going to move into like a holographic avatar consciousness, and that is how to really program ourselves for what we see and what we want to be. And then we're going to move into the specifics of how to create these things through the different chambers of the heart, the different mechanisms and geometries of the heart. So that's coming up on Friday, the 8th. My larger course will be launching again. We just finished. We just had our initiation rites for people to step into their own medicine. And the next one will be launching in August. And then this series just ended about 4 days ago. And I interviewed 21 people, or 24 people all over the world in the we'll say fields of conscious DNA that we're creating ourselves, free energy, what it would be, how we would unlock free energy here for the planet by truly understanding our own energy systems moving in freedom, and how that really moves the whole planet into the next level of free energy. And then the economy of ascension and grace. And, what will the new economies be? How are we going to value each other? What are the new values for each other? And getting back to valuing all life again through these types of currency. And so that was like the overlaying intention of this series and working through genetics. So we just finished. And then at the end, I offered, if people wanted to purchase the series, they could. And then if they wanted to book a session with me, I also gave 3 meditations, and then a 1-hour clearing and coding session, and then also the series. And I mean, we had some amazing, amazing people talking about the holographic nature. We had Alfred Weber on the War Crimes Tribunal. We had several different people talk about new economies of perspective and gratitude. I mean, it was just a whole plethora of perspectives coming together for the new human and the new earth.
Are there any kind of gems that came through for you that you'd like to share right now from that series? Anything that maybe had a special, I know you're going to say it all did, but was there anything in that kind of had a special heart resonance for you that came through during that? Because I know, especially if you're interviewing all of these people, it just, it's always a beautiful process of kind of connecting, and it kind of, we just by sharing space with each other, we tend to kind of, come have these like aha moments of awakening, and there'll be always little gems that come through to kind of access like a new piece of information or that we may have not had before.
One thing that really came forward for me is, and I mean, this is human and planetary liberation that we're moving towards, and what that means. And I started to really study Alfred Weber's work, where he really goes through the cosmology of the universe, the multiverse, and the omniverse.
Okay.
And the different levels of so above, so below that we're working with right now, as we're working through this kind of pandemic energy and this dark energy, and what's happening. But when I really started to get into his work, he had much bigger platforms because he sits on a war crimes tribunal, and he had a bigger body of work that was a foundation for the new human and the new earth, which I thought was incredible. And a lot of it was, disclosure of technologies that the government has, the disclosure period, uh, uh, but was also bringing about the criminal prosecution of all war crimes, all war industry, and all attacks on the environment and the biosphere as a whole. And other people are doing this now. Sasha Stone has come in, and he also, I don't know if you've been following his work at all, but he's another great person who again sits on kind of like a tribunal of these types of crimes against humanity. And in order for us to truly claim the new human and the new earth, that these types of energies cannot go on anymore, and they have to be prosecuted. And we have to send a direct, clear message to the energy that is in this universe, in the multiverse, in the omniverse, that this will not happen here. That life is precious, and we honor it, and we protect it, and that every human, animals, the environment, all have rights.
Yeah, it's all pro-life and all anti-life should definitely see or come to terms for everything that's kind of been within this like control for all of us over this time. So just then on that like note, like so during this like corona pandemic, you know it's offered such a different time for all of us, I think, where it's amazing how many different realities can exist at one moment, where you could be within the same room with four other people and all are having completely different experiences, as we all tend to see through our own lenses. It's really kind of offered this opportunity for a global reset for all of the light workers, star seeds, everyone that seems to be on a big mission. It's a huge wake up call, I feel, for, and it's allowed a window of opportunity to stop working some of their jobs, to reevaluate their entire lives, whether that be relationships, to the energy they're putting out, to what's actually important within their life, and to start to find solutions and to energetically become aware of things they may have not become before. So I really feel like, we had the clarion call to come into this lifetime, but it's kind of like a clarion call right now for a lot of our, family to wake up and to come out of this time now thinking about like what do they want to birth or rebirth from this time. What direction do they want to go in? Do they want to go back to the same life they had and going back into that kind of like knowingness of what wasn't serving them, or kind of taking that like quantum leap or jump forward into that like path, which is a little unknown, but can be filled with, so much love and just a new direction for many of us, which I know like you're constantly doing this, which is always impressive. What advice do you have for, all of our brothers and sisters that are waking up right now, sitting in this corona pandemic and really looking to make a powerful change within their life and within their direction, that have felt that like calling, you know what is some words you could share with them?
First, I would say is to find a community that you resonate with. Find your tribe that you can speak your truth in, because we all need support,
Mm.
because we all get those voices in our head, or we all come up to the friction of the 3D that says that this isn't allowed, or we can't have this, or this isn't right, you're crazy. you know we all brush up against that. So find a community that you feel in resonance with. Speak your truth, be yourself, develop the support and the connections that you need to be the truth of yourself. Get into, you know, programs that have tools that seem valuable to you, um, and to do that work. The And I don't want to say work, to do that, that peeling off the layers of this false identifications that we've had. And again, you know, this is why I love to use programs, you know, is that these are just programs. They're just these organizational patterns that have been around us for so long, we didn't know that they were patterns. And that once you start seeing them clearly, it is so easy to make a different choice. And it is so easy from that choice to reorganize your genetics, to be the truth of who you are, to be that light, whatever that is for you. But at some point, you've got to find a way to create that space from the reaction to make a different choice. And however you do that, you know, is your divine right. But at some point, that has to happen. Otherwise, you're just in constant reaction. And it is a loop of energy that we have been in. This is the matrix. It's a loop of energy we have been in. So whatever that looks like for people, follow that.
Thank you for sharing that with everyone. Always very passionate and truly a visionary in terms of setting a new path for everyone, and not having creating a new path. I want to say not setting, but creating or co-creating a new path and options to inspire people, as you've done within your own life and this journey as well. As we know, it's always a process of being able to look so deeply within. We see everything, and we allow ourselves to release some of these conditionings programs or programs of illusion that run within us, to allow ourselves those awakening moments to really move forward and to have that 100% accountability for our energy and what we're creating. Especially now more than ever, I think it's like everyone that's waking up right now, we all have a choice to be conscious. You know, you've said it a few times throughout this podcast. You know, you have a choice. You can all choose who you want to be from this moment right now with every decision that you make, you know. And I think for them, making these decisions is to really understand the difference of being within their mind and within their heart.
Yeah.
And it's really going to take, you know, just like yourself, Acurda, the awakened leaders to come forward now within this, you know, new earth system, vision, energetic like alignment, to lead with an open heart and to hold our light for each one that are coming forward. I think just like listening to you speak about your summit, it's just incredible, the kind of vision and that's coming forward that you're involved in on so many different aspects. It's just fascinating, you know, because I think you talk about a lot of the DNA work you do, but it's so much more and so much bigger and grander. Like you're really involved in making it such a monumental positive change right now, with such just, deep levels of compassion you have for everyone. I've noticed in our own interactions and connections, just this like genuine integrity that you have and carry, and it's really a perfect model for people to see when you stand within your power full and hold your energy full, the kind of things we start to be able to accomplish. So I think all those listening to this are going to be super inspired by some of the wisdom and just the energetic frequency you're holding for this podcast and this awakened new earth frequency. So just in terms of coming into the last like little bit of the podcast, how is it that we are able to come into this higher like conscious like moments and be able to sit within this like new earth kind of energetic vibration or frequency? Like how does this work for yourself to be able to consistently hold or operate or be such like a pioneer within this energetic like capacity?
From my own personal perspective, I've done the deep diving through my genetics for all of those patterns and programs, those frequencies that are of a lower vibrational rate. And I have cleared them and recoded them because they are those programs create our DNA, they create our cellular structure, they create our chakra system, they create our magnetic field, and then all the same stories keep playing out over and over again. So I've done that work. And when you clear and recode your DNA and you sit in a place of these higher frequencies, it becomes so much easier to see this golden timeline that we're in. I see it so clearly. And even though I also see all of the other things that are these things that we're dismantling, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never for a moment let go of our divine timeline and the truth of who we are. And I know that with my whole being. So this divine timeline that we're talking about, the golden timeline, right? We're clearing several different types of timelines right now. That's why you were talking about 4 people being in a room, right? And each person having a different perspective. It's of lenses, but these lenses are programs, which are also like little wormholes to different timelines of energy, right? That they're feeding. When you start to close those wormholes down, those right into this full quantum part of yourself, right, and act from your whole being from this place, there is a tremendous amount of source energy that starts pouring through you. It is a very clear, high frequency of energy in alignment to not only your mind being in service of your heart being in service of your soul, but your soul being in service to all that is through the universe on a quantum level. And it just keeps moving out. And the more that you create in that, the more keeps coming.
Yeah, it's like being in harmony with like the living light of everything. So it's kind of like just forms that natural expansion. If you're able to sit within like the natural laws of creation, you're in the field of creation, so you create. So it's once we're able to open up to that is a truly beautiful thing. And know you. So I just want to kind of go back to the holographic vision that you were speaking of, so we can kind of go a little more in detail on that subject. So holographic vision, does this come from within our DNA? Does this come from the universe? Does this come from our timelines? Does this come from our heart? Where does this come from when you speak of holographic vision?
So I believe in what I call DNA as the Akasha Novus, and this, I'm going to start coming out with starting to do teachings and writings on the Akasha Novus, which I consider our DNA to be our master ancestor, right? And from this perspective, these quantum layers of perspective of our knowingness, of our, we'll say, our soul identity, of our God identity, and the God is like all that is that there are these moments where the total perspective shifts into these higher identities, right? And these higher identities are, our highest identity is an organizing principle for all things, right? And encoded in us is every potential gift and possibility through this awareness, because there are no filters. There are no filters through it. It is pure awareness of source. And in that is our holographic nature. So even the universe has levels of organizational patterns to it. Geometries, like the tetrahedron throughout the universe. You know, a lot of times it's depicted the earth is surrounded by the flower of life. There are all these different types of geometries. In the DNA, it is a dodecahedron, and it keeps getting more and more advanced as the more strands come through. But so these are all encoded in us, and this holographic sight is so that we can clearly see and be a creation of our own blueprint in the fabric of the universal consciousness fabric in a dimensional level. And there is we'll say, as we start to ascend and start believing more of our truth of who we are, people, more and more gifts are coming online, you know, bilocation, teleportation, telepathy, you know, all of this. Holographic sight is one of those things. And holographic sight is our sight is a high sight of our truth in the universe, and part of how we know the direct organizational pattern, or we'll say fractal geometry or fractal holographic patterns of the universe work. So I'm not sure if that answered your question.
It's
does that make sense to you?
It does. I'm going to be thinking about that one for a few hours, I think, after. But it's one of those questions where we can just kind of go deeper and deeper on into, you know, the all expansive of what that is. So that was beautiful. Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to share with our viewers before we sign off? I know, is there still space left in your course that's upcoming this Friday?
There is space for the one-day retreat through the Temple of the Heart. We've kept it at a really low price. We know that everybody is, you know, in their own situations out in the world. This is truly about offering tools for people who like I said, need some tools to be the truth of who they are in this time. then I have my landing page up. So if people go and want to be a part of the community, they receive a ancestral clearing of the first 2 strands of DNA. And then I'm still offering extended offer the series and the clearing and recoding session from me as well. So they're still the whole series is $47 by itself, and a session with me, the series and 3 activations, is $144.
Wow, that's it.
So,
It's
and then I
amazing.
also left you my contact information if anybody would like to contact me as well.
And we're going to post all the information up with this and your free gift as well, and how they can get through and contact you and be part of your amazing community and all of the work that you are doing. I want to thank you from my heart to your heart for being part of the Awaken New Earth podcast today and sharing some of this higher conscious conversation together.
Thank you so much. I love you. You're doing amazing work, and I am honored to call you brother, and honored to be here at this time with you, and honored to be with this community, because I truly believe in us.
It's our time.
Yeah. So much love to everybody. Bye-bye.
I hope you all enjoyed the New Earth, Awaken New Earth podcast with Richard Melchizedek and Acurda Melchizedek. Have a blessed day today. Sending you all so much love and gratitude. Kyo yokura kishio yokoma nakana kayoko yokore atataki yo yokoma. Iriki shio yokora kana kayoko shio yokoma. Yatataki yo yokora kiana shio yokoma nakai. Ayo okora kiamanari ariri shio manaka. Okokokokokokoko. Yatatakara yo yokomani shio yokomai. Kia tia taka tatakoma. Ura kishio yokora kia tatakai. This light language message from my heart to yours. Aho, namaste, and blessed be.